That you're all feeling good these days. Have you been trying the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the magic mantra that we keep talking about? Please do that, because once you start chanting that regularly, you will notice the difference that comes in your consciousness. How much more peaceful, how much more blissful you will begin to feel. And that's a fact. So we are moving ahead towards the end of the chapter. Now today we will be taking up shloka number 2.69 and 70, and the theme is repeating here, the theme is continuing. Krishna is explaining to Arjun how exactly investing your mind and intelligence in Krishna, as he says, in myself, is going to make you a person of steady intelligence, sthit dhir muni. So he is explaining in the past few verses how controlling your senses and mind is an impossible task by yourself. But if we take Krishna's help to do this, you see, only the maker knows how to repair a faulty item or where exactly the fault lies. Somebody who has manufactured anything, maybe a device, a phone or a robot, will know exactly where the trouble is coming from. Similarly, you see, we all owe our existence to Krishna. This mind, this body has been manufactured by him and given to us. Our souls are a part and parcel of Krishna himself. So whenever there is something wrong, actually speaking, the mind itself is a very troublesome entity. But Krishna knows just how to fix it, because he is the manufacturer. And that's the reason why any other method that we may employ to try to control our mind will actually not give us long-standing results, because it's going to be a quick fix, you see. So a quick fixes never last long. So unless we invest mind in Krishna, who is the manufacturer, unless we do that, we'll never really be able to keep it in the right place. So let's say our prayers first, expressing our gratitude to our acharyas who have given us this knowledge in easy languages. I sometimes think, had it been 150 or 200 years ago, how would we be reading all these scriptures, For me, reading Hindi also is a little bit troublesome. Well, we can do that, but there is a language of comfort, since we have been born and brought up in places where English has been the medium of instruction. For us to read through the English text is a lot more easier. And very technical Hindi or Sanskrit, as the scriptures are written in, it actually serves as a deterrent for us, So Srila Prabhupada, the modern day Acharya, the latest in the line of Parampara, starting from Krishna, has given us all these works in English, and I can't thank him enough for this. How easy it has become for me to read and comprehend them. That exalted knowledge that was only the prerogative of the highly learned at one point of time is available to everyone, a commoner like myself. So thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurunvalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Desh Tarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Just saying that once with feeling gives you so much peace. You must really try this. I urge you, I request you humbly to please start chanting this wonderful Maha Mantra, which has been prescribed in all our scriptures as the mantra for Kali Yuga. This is the mantra, just as we have a prescribed medicine for a disease, for an ailment, similarly for this yuga in which we are living, that is Kali Yuga, not every mantra is going to work. So there is a prescribed mantra for every yuga to practice, and for this yuga it is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So when we take the medicine as per the prescription and of the doctor with the right dosage and time, we end up getting better sooner. Similarly, the Bhagavatam has given us this mantra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared 500 years ago. Krishna himself, in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, told us to chant this mantra, as this is the one which is going to bring the results fastest to us, the quickest purification of our hearts and consciousness, and therefore the connection builds very quickly with Krishna. We'll take up 2.69 first. These both the shlokas that we're going to study today are beautiful shlokas, very well, I would say acclaimed shlokas. People read about them and quote them a lot, and they are indeed very profound. Let's find out what they say. So 2.69 says, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagarti bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. The translation given to us by Srila Prabhupada is, what is night for all living beings? Sarva bhutani. So bhuta means the living entities, like ourselves, like the other organisms. So for all living organisms, the time which is night is actually the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. So here Krishna is comparing two types of people, two major categories of people on this earth. You might also like to go around the people, mentally, to see what category they fall in. So Krishna is saying that majority of the living beings who are actually called karmis, because people who are only in the materialistic viewpoint of life, they are living life only for gratifying their senses, have no idea about their real identity as a soul, and are not putting in any efforts to realize themselves as souls. They are called the karmis, the general category. You see, just like we have in the airplanes business class and an economy class. Most of the people are the karmis, the general class of people, because they are not awakened to the fact that they are not the bodies, they are the souls. And the second class of men Krishna is describing here are the munis or the sanyamis. The word comes in the shloka. In the first line, the last word is sanyami. Samyam means to have control over oneself, over one's senses and mind. And muni, similarly, the word indicates a person who is spiritually awakened. So Krishna is actually comparing a muni with a karmi. So now what he actually means to say is not very literal, in the sense night and day is more in the perspective of a metaphor here rather than being literal, although we can put in some literal meaning here also about it. We see that many of the karmis, they like to party late into the night. They don't really like to sleep on time, right? And into the wee hours of night, I've heard that song, Bollywood song, 4 baj gaye, lekin party ab bhi baki hai, which means people like to party into the night and actually go to sleep in the morning, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, when it's actually time for other ones, the munis, to wake up. On the other hand, the munis, as we are saying, they actually wake up in the Brahma Muhurat, in the wee hours of the morning. 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 a.m. because that is supposed to be the best time to connect to Lord. It is a special combination of energies at that time that any task taken up at that time, particularly to connect with the divine, has immediate results. You can feel the profoundness of your task being reciprocated at that time. It's the divine moment, the divine moments of the day. So people who are karmis, who care only for gratifying their senses, will not worry too much about going to bed on time and waking up early in the morning, whereas the munis would call it a night early into the night and wake up earlier in the morning, as we talked about in the Brahma Muhurat, to do their spiritual practices. So quite literally also the timing here, you see, would actually be quite opposite, but it is more to do with the sense of comparing the kind of activities that these two people they perform. The Sanyamis will not worry too much about the material happinesses and the distresses which come into their lives. They would just keep going on and on into their spiritual journey. Now what happens is that these people, they are very fixed in their goal to be on track. They have awakened to the fact that they are not bodies, they are souls. So what happens is that when you have a goal fixed in your mind, you don't worry too much about the little distractions which come in your way. So they are very, very focused on what they have to achieve, and therefore they would be termed as the spiritually awakened people. Whereas the karmis, they would actually indulge in activities which are to do with sense gratification and would actually be riding the roller coaster, sometimes going up, sometimes going down, sometimes feeling good, sometimes feeling depressed, like a yo-yo. Their life goes like a yo-yo. But the munis, the Sthitadhir munis, are steady in their intelligence, steady in their goal. They just keep going in the direction that they have to go in, because that's where they are aimed at, to awaken themselves fully, with respect to the realization that I am the soul and I'm a part and parcel of Krishna, and I am to serve. My real identity, my real dharma is to serve Krishna, and that's how I find satisfaction, the true satisfaction in my heart. So comparing activities versus activities, we find that the activities of these two classes of men are quite the opposite of each other, and therefore the metaphor in this verse, Krishna is such a beautiful poet. He ought to be, he's God. So he is using poetry to his advantage, he is giving us such beautiful metaphors. Well, I'm not much of a language person, but I think to make poetry beautiful, you need to use alliterations, you need to use metaphors and similes and personifications. What not Krishna has used. He's used every poetic device that is known to modern people and more, because such beautiful poetry, and that too, what makes it all the more beautiful is the object or the subject of the poetry. It's not mundane poetry. It's nothing to do with the day-to-day materialistic activities. The content of the poetry is divine. That makes it all the more beautiful. So Srila Prabhupada sums up the purport by saying that the introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reactions. He knows that the material reactions are going to come as a result of the karmas that he has committed in the past. That's all right. He doesn't get distracted or diverted by them. He just keeps looking at the goal of self-realization and keeps going on. And therefore, in the true sense of the word, the munis are the awakened people. They are fully awake so as to what their identity is, what their position is. whereas the karmis are still sleeping. That's what Srila Prabhupada mentions here, that the karmis are asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. So what Srila Prabhupada is hinting at is, or trying to explain to us, is that this material life is like a dream. We are actually asleep. We are not awake at this moment. We are in a sort of illusion. We are considering this dream to be real. How that happens? Doesn't it happen that way? Because sometimes we're dreaming, we take everything that's happening in the dream to be true, and at times we wake up in a nightmare. We break out in sweat if you're having a nightmare because we think that's true. Similarly, if you're having a good dream, and we really are sad when somebody wakes us up, because at that point of time we feel it to be true. Similarly, Prabhupada is telling us that the life that we are living as in this material body is actually like a dream. One day we are going to wake up and find out that we are not the body at all, and this is not our home at all. This is not where we're supposed to be at all. So it's good to start the process of awakening now. The next sloka is also very beautiful. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudram apah pravishanti yadvat tadvat kama yam pravishanti sarve sashantim apnoti na kama kami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Another beautiful metaphor Krishna is using here. Let's understand this. So Krishna is giving us the example of the ocean. He says that just as a number of rivers keep entering the ocean, particularly in the rainy seasons, when the rivers are all swollen with the lot of water that they're receiving from the rains, and also by the melting of the snow in the summer. So we find that particularly in the rainy season, a lot of water is being poured into the ocean by the rivers. And yet, have you ever heard of the sea level going up? The level of the sea is so constant, barring the fraction of a percent of the centimeter that global warming is resulting in, that to over number of years, maybe 50 years or more, almost through the century, the sea level has raised only this tiny whiny bit, right? And that too, as the scientists are saying. But generally speaking, sea level is taken to be the benchmark all over. We measure the altitudes of all places in the world, with respect to the sea level, and that's because everybody knows the sea level to be a constant. You see, that's the way Krishna says our heart should be. Just as an ocean doesn't go up, it doesn't start spilling over when the rivers keep entering it. Similarly, our heart should be like that ocean of peace, into which the rivers of desires will keep pouring in, but it never gets overflowed. It never gets disturbed. Now, how are we to understand that? Rivers of desires. Now, Srila Prabhupada tells us here, actually one might ask, when is it that we will stop having desires? In one of the previous verses, we discussed that, is it possible to become desireless? And do you remember what is the conclusion we came to? No, it's not possible. Till the time we have this body, we have this mind, the desires will keep coming in. It's not possible to stop the desires. It's only possible to spiritualize them. And even though we could reach that time, that perfection, not really very soon, the desires that keep coming into our heart cannot be really stopped. They are like rivers in the rainy season. But it's not necessary for us to react to them, to respond to them, to try to chase them. Srila Prabhupada explains so beautifully that desires may come to him like the waters of the river that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities and he is not even slightly disturbed by the desires for sense gratification. And what he says then later is that it is so because his heart is so full. And what is it full of? It is full of Krishna's love. When a heart, mind and heart are connected to Krishna, the heart is so full of Krishna's love that the desires that keep pouring in don't disturb such a person, a muni, because he doesn't chase after them. He knows the reality of the desires, that these will come and go, but if I keep chasing them, then I will lose my goal. So that is the beauty of spiritual life. It's not that the things don't go wrong when you're living in this world. There are highs and lows in this world for everybody, even a person who is spiritually inclined. It's not that he ceases to have any kind of material problems or troubles, but he is so fixed on his goal and he's so full of love received from Krishna that he doesn't care about the ups and downs that keep coming into his life, as mentioned in the previous verse, and he is not distracted by the desires that also keep flowing in. He knows the realities of the desires. So Srila Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport and says that such a person, he enjoys full peace, and others who want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation. You see, liberation is also desire, as we call it moksha. People talk about moksha, nirvana. So to be free from this material bondage and just merge into the Brahman, that's also actually a desire. It's a different kind of desire, but that's also a desire. And a devotee doesn't really care for that also. What he just cares for is his connection with Krishna and his ability to serve Krishna to his very best, wherever he is, even if he is in this world or he is in any other world, any of the several parallel material worlds. Well, there are, as the Bhagavatam mentions, millions and millions of this kind of universes existing. In fact, most of them are much bigger than our universe. So he might stay anywhere for Krishna's happiness to serve him, or he may go back to spiritual world if Krishna desires, you see. So such a person who has aligned his will with Krishna's will and his desires with Krishna's desires has nothing to worry about, has nothing to feel sad about, because Krishna is going to take care of him. So he doesn't, as Srila Prabhupada explains, he doesn't even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. So ignoring the material desires, he is always fixed in Krishna, and that's the key to be in perfect peace. People are looking after peace. I want peace of mind. How will you get that peace of mind? Going to the mountain top, living there alone, that peace of mind is only transient, because the desires will not leave him there also, So perfect peace, as we studied in one of the previous shlokas, that is 2.6, that peace can be obtained only when one's mind and intelligence is fixed in Krishna. Otherwise, there is no peace in this world. So such a person who is aligned and doesn't get bothered by the desires flowing in has perfect peace. And as in 2.6 we studied that Krishna was telling, if you have peace, then you have happiness, because happiness cannot come without peace. So to be perfectly peaceful, we need to be perfectly aligned with Krishna. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this, and do keep chanting Hare Krishna Maha.